Pavan heads the Deutsche Bank global market business in India, so he is a finance guy. He has worked for Deutsche Bank since 1994 in several capital markets and trade and sales management roles based in Singapore, London, and India. He also pursues long-standing interests in nature conservation and environmental economics through his work with environmental NGOs in India, such as the India Through Green Indian States Trust, which he co-founded, and the Conservation Action Trust, one of India's leading nature conservation charities. But as a finance person who is also deeply interested in nature conservation, he leads UNEP's Green Economy Initiative, which was launched last year and aims at seizing a historic opportunity to bring about tomorrow's economy today. The initiative has three elements: a Green Economies Report, a Green Jobs Report, and the Economics of Ecosystems and Biodiversity project, TEEB. And this TEEB that was launched by the G8+5 group of states parallels the report that the Stern Commission has done on the financial impacts of climate change. Everybody knows about the Stern report. So a similar report is being produced on biodiversity. And this report will set out a comprehensive and compelling economic case for conservation of biodiversity and promote a better understanding of the true economic value of the benefits we receive from nature. This work was launched in 2007 and will go on until next year. Our biodiversity initiative has been in very close consultation with Pavan and his team. So when last year we were doing a local government conference on the occasion of the Conference of the Parties to the UN Convention on Biodiversity in Bonn, we had an intensive dialogue with Pavan. We met him earlier this year in Nairobi and also at another UN event in Bonn. So we have very close ties, and this is why he is very interested to speak to you, but will do so by video now.
Friends and colleagues at ICLEI, unfortunately I cannot be with you today, but I'd like to spend a few moments discussing two projects in the city of Bombay, now known as Mumbai, with which I was personally involved, and also discussing with you and requesting your participation in the project called TEEB, the Economics for Ecosystems and Biodiversity. Firstly, my personal story. I am an Indian and I have lived in India most of my life, and a lot of that has been spent in this wonderful melting pot called Mumbai, made famous more recently by Slumdog Millionaire, the famous blockbuster movie from Hollywood. But I think Mumbai needs no introduction, and what perhaps needs to be said is that unlike the perception of Mumbai being purely a concrete jungle, there is a real jungle residing inside Mumbai. Borivali National Park, 104 square kilometers of forest. Protected, it is a national park. And this national park has been the subject of a public interest litigation to protect it from the interests of deforestation and encroachment, and I'm delighted to say that most of that effort, led by the citizens of Bombay and indeed supported by the involvement of a responsible local government, has in fact borne fruit. And we have now a situation where the national park not only is reasonably well protected, but it is also being extended effectively to the north of Bombay with another national park in proximity. What this does is to not only secure the biodiversity of that region, but also it secures two major lakes as well as a reservoir, which provide 1/10 of the water supply of 18 million people. So here we are talking about the water supply of more than 1.5 million people coming from these reservoirs protected inside this forest. Here's an example of ecosystem services which are valuable to a city, proximate to a city, being conserved in order for the benefit of the citizens, and indeed in this case by actions of the citizen. The NGO that led this is one with which I have some involvement. Another NGO, the Conservation Action Trust, recently has struck up a dialogue with the local government and with private funders to set up what is known as the Mumbai Wetland Centre. As is well known, Mumbai has a coastline It is basically an island. And a lot of the threat that may come to us with the onset of climate change and with the potential for flooding and for more cyclones and more storms of the kind that Bombay witnessed in 2005, which cost lives and destroyed property. A lot of that protection would in fact come to us through coastal mangroves. So not only has the project to set up a conservation area and an education area to educate the people of Bombay been approved, but also there's a second project which appears soon to be on the cards on the inland side of Bombay. Here we have again an example of city folks working with the local government, moving towards a situation where they have managed to secure the attention of the people, the attention of the government, and managed to secure some of the funding that is required to in fact conserve the natural environs of Bombay, and from an angle in this case of conservation and protection. I think these are great examples of what cities can do, and also especially what cities can do despite being populous, despite land being precious, but also understanding the value that comes to us, not merely the spiritual values and the enjoyment that children of the future will get from visiting the national park and visiting the wetland centers, but also the real protection that we will get in terms of the security of water and the security of climate that comes as a result of having these proximate areas. The investment, if you like, in these areas, or the opportunity cost of investing here, would, in my opinion, have been well met. The project that I want to talk to you about actually is a macrocosm of many such examples. TEEB, the Economics for Ecosystems and Biodiversity, was conceived by the G8+5 at a meeting in Potsdam in 2007. And it was launched with the help of Germany and the European Union Commission. And I was appointed to lead it in March last year. We have since published an interim report which sizes and estimates the scale of the losses that are taking place of ecosystems and biodiversity, and we found those to be quite significant. But we've also realized that the way to address this problem, or at least one of the ways in which we can address this problem, is to make more and more people aware of the economic consequences, aware of the human welfare consequences, and aware of the real impacts of the losses of ecosystems and biodiversity. We have therefore, in phase 2, which is going on right now, 4 separate streams which are involved in preparing documentation and preparing a report, each which is targeted at policymakers, a second one which is targeted by people like yourselves who are administrators and involved either in cities or in towns or as forest department managers or as judiciaries, but involved on the nitty-gritty of on-the-ground conservation and what it means in terms of opportunity forsaken on the one hand and benefits obtained on the other. There is a third report yet which is targeted, not surprisingly, at the corporation, because the imprint, or if you like, the footprint of the corporation on ecology is quite significant. And so we provide not only for the CEO a means of addressing the risks and the opportunities that come to his company from nature, but also a means of assessing the sheer size of their impact and methods as to how to mitigate it or offset that. Lastly, we are also focusing on the consumer and the citizen, because it is, as I began with my personal example, it is at the end of the day the responsibility and the awareness of citizens that drives a lot of good action in cities and towns, and which I'm sure you as leaders of the cities would fully appreciate. There's nothing more valuable than an intelligent populace which supports right action for its own conservation, for its own future, and for the sustainability of the economy of the city, of the lifestyle of the city, and to promote well-being not just for this generation, but for the generations of the future. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to this conference. I invite you to log into our website, teeweb.org, and to log in and check out what is D2. By the way, all our reports, the 4 reports and the main science deliverable are known as deliverables, because we are very particular about delivering them on time for the end users as in national and international legislators, as in local legislators and administrators, and as in corporations, and as in, finally, individuals. I welcome you to our website, I welcome you to our project, and I welcome you to this conference. Do look forward to your involvement. Thank you.